Hello, hello. I'm Casey,
And I'm Fallon.
and this is
Render the Darkness.
Ooh. Fun fact for this episode is that you can hear a blue whale's heartbeat from over 2 miles away.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Or if it's like, or if it's like,
I don't know.
Hmm.
I do know it said that their hearts weigh roughly 180 kilograms.
Ooh.
So it's safe to say that they have some pretty big hearts.
Yeah. Big high.
Big hearts.
All right, so this episode we are going to kind of go back into the 1800s again.
Travel time.
Yeah. We are going to be talking about the life and death of Johnny Ringo, who was an American outlaw that had ties with the Cochise County Cowboys and some other well-known people. So, John Peters Ringo was born on May 3rd, 1850, to Martin and Mary Peters Ringo. He had three sisters named Mattie Bell, Mary Anna, and Fanny Fern, and a brother named Martin A. Ringo. He was born in the town that is now known as Greens Fort Clay Township in Wayne County, Indiana. He was related by marriage to the Outlaws, the Younger brothers, by his aunt, right? That's kind of cool, who married Coleman P. Younger, who was the younger brother's uncle. And when he was 6 years old, his family left India and moved to Liberty, Missouri. When he was 8, they moved to Gallatin, Missouri, and rented a home from John W. Sheets, who was later killed by Jesse James by accident because he thought he was the Union leader Samuel Cox when he had robbed the Davis County Savings Association in Gallatin in 1869. And when Johnny was 14, they were going from Wyoming to California, and his father got off of their wagon holding a shotgun. The shotgun somehow discharged, and the buckshot killed him instantly.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Now, the family didn't have much of a choice but to bury him on the side of the trail. Now, at the age of 19, Johnny left for Texas in 1869, leaving his mother, brother, and sisters behind. He ended up moving to Mason County, Texas, and became friends with ex-Texas Ranger Scott Cooley, who was Tim Williamson's adopted son, and this is where he ends up in the Hoodoo War.
Does that name sound familiar? Scott Cooley.
Cooley Gang.
Was that a gang?
Mm-hmm.
That's probably, okay. That's probably why it sounds familiar. I was like, I've heard that name before.
Yep, the Cooley Gang.
Probably exactly what it is.
Now, the Hoodoo War, or the Mason County War, to a lot of people was not really understood and was pretty complicated. It was really a war in a war. On one side of the war were the Germans, and on the other side were the Americans. Now, the Germans made the mistake of supporting the Union throughout the Civil War, and when that war ended, the hostility between the German and Americans continued, and the Outlaws would take full advantage of the situation between them. The Outlaws were said that they went after the Germans the hardest, but that they did fight back, as you will later hear. Now, in the book, John Ringo, The Gunfighter Who Never Was, by Jack Burroughs, indicates that some of the farmers were not any better than thieves, and talks about how they would have cattle that would be able to go from their pasture to another location pretty easily. The herders would also pick up strays along the way because they didn't really care about whose cattle they were driving.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
No.
That's stealing. I don't care what time period you're in.
Yep. Strays.
There's been many people who have died from doing that.
Yes.
Especially in that time frame. You cannot steal other people's cattle.
No. Now, the people elected Sheriff John Clark and Cattle Inspector Hoyster to help with the problem. They were both pretty honest men and were not afraid of the enemy's threats. However, they also didn't mind taking the law into their own hands.
Mm-mm.
The two men gathered two groups of people to look for potential cow thieves, where they would have held the herds. Sorry, that's a tongue twister. One group went to James River, and the other group went to Brady Creek. The group on James River had found stolen cattle, but the thieves had taken off. Now, the group on Brady Creek were able to catch the Buckus brothers and 8 of their companions getting ready to take a herd. 3 of the men were able to escape, but the others, including the brothers, were taken to jail.
What part of Arizona is this?
It's not in Arizona just yet. It's
okay. Still in Texas?
Yeah, it's
okay.
We're getting there.
I thought they had moved by now. I'm sorry. Sorry.
It's okay. I promise it's in Arizona.
I was just curious. I was like, are we still in Texas or are we in Arizona yet?
We'll end up in Arizona at some point in time, I promise.
Okay.
On February 18th, 1875, a large mob of people broke into the jail cell and pulled the 5 men out. Sheriff Clark asked Lieutenant Dan, couldn't help but chuckle. I'm sorry, I couldn't help but chuckle there.
Lieutenant Dan.
Lieutenant Dan W. Roberts, who was a Texas Ranger, to help with the mob. Sheriff Clark then threatened to open fire on all of them, but quickly decided not to and had surrendered. The mob was able to hang the Buckus brothers and shoot one of the other men, but the other 2 men were rescued after Sheriff Clark's feeble attempt to stop the mob. Tom Gommel, who was in the mob, left after he said that Sheriff Clark and Worcester wanted to get rid of the men in the cell, but he didn't want any part of that plan. After he left, he became a supporter of the American side and felt that he was now a target after leaving the mob. Tom decided to get a group of people to surround him, and in March of 1875, they met with Sheriff Clark and 60 of his German men. After some uneasiness, they all decided that peace among them would be the best option. However, that didn't last very long.
Can't we all just get along?
I know, it'd be nice.
Okay, so I know this is completely off topic and has nothing to do with your case at all. Okay. But do you think that that Worcester guy had anything to do with Worcestershire sauce?
No.
He did not invent it.
Are
we sure?
I could be wrong, but I'm going to say probably
Was he the grandpappy of the person who invented it?
Maybe.
Oh. It's not a common name.
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't know if it was like Worcester and then they added the Shire to be cool, or if that was the whole name. I'm just saying.
Well, I think I may have mispronounced it as Hoister.
Oh.
I was like, where is she getting what?
Well, the way you typed it, if you really wanted to be correct, was Horster. I'm not making fun of this person's name. I don't even know how the name is correctly spelled. I'm looking at how she put it in parentheses and broke it down on her paper. She doesn't even have the actual last name written down. So I'm not making fun of the name. I don't know what the actual spelling is. But the way she has it put in parentheses is literally Hor-stir. That's it.
I had it on there. I really did. I might have it on here somewhere else.
Well, it's not right there, so I just want people to know I am not making fun of the last name. I don't even know how the last name is actually spelled. I just know how she has it broken down so she can pronounce it, which she's now claiming she did not pronounce correctly anyway.
I think I did it too fast and it sounded like whoosh. That word.
So this was all irrelevant to the case entirely. So I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I blame her mispronunciation.
My fast pronunciation.
What were you saying? What were you saying?
My fast talking. Aha. Okay.
Horse.
Anywho. Back to the story. May 18th. Sorry. See what she did to me? May 1875. A very cherished and popular American man named Tim Williamson was arrested on an older charge for stealing a horse. Now, the deputy that arrested him, named John Worrell, purposefully took Tim close to a den that was home to very aggressive and dangerous men. And Tim was killed by Peter Batter, who was a German farmer. Now, the murder of this man is what brought Scott Cooley's gang and John Ringo to the war. The story about Scott and Tim goes like this. Scott was a child. His parents were murdered by an Indian tribe and was held captive. Tim was on a cattle drive to Kansas and found Scott and brought him back to Texas and raised him as his own. Now, because of what Deputy Worrell had done, wow. Oh my gosh.
She just put because of what Deputy Worrell, and then that's the end of that sentence.
It's supposed to be because of what Deputy Worrell had done. Scott killed and scalped him, and the war was on once again. There's a lot of typos in this, and
I don't know where you got the war, because that's not in there.
It was supposed to be. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of typos. It's supposed to be in there.
We're going a little off script in case you can't tell. Thank God, or you would not have a complete story.
Yeah. So if I stop for a second, there's a typo that I'm trying to figure out what was actually supposed to be there.
She typed this just so everyone knows that as well.
Yes.
She researched it, she studied it, she wrote it, she typed it.
I'm blaming this for taking words out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what's happened. Okay, so let's see if I can compose myself and do this correctly. Wanting to get rid of Cooley's gang, Sheriff Clark and the Germans resorted to using an ambush to do so. A man by the name of Cheney was paid to find the gang. When he did, he told Mose Beard and George Gladden that they were wanted in Mason, and then Cheney took off back towards Mason as fast as he could. Now, the men decided to see why they were wanted in Mason, and upon arrival, they were ambushed. Mose was killed, and George was hurt, and only spared because he had begged for his life. Now, George would go right back to the Cooley gang and let the others know what had happened. Now, what's said to have happened next is that John Ringo and one of his friends named Williams went to Cheney's house and asked him for some breakfast. The man had them come down to the porch to wash up, and while he was drying his face, the two men shot him and returned back to the rest of the gang. A year later, John Ringo and George Gladden were indicted for the murder of Cheney, but Williams wasn't named at all in the indictment. After the murder of Cheney, Ringo and Cooley were going after Peter, the one who had murdered Tim, and accidentally shot his brother Charlie.
Oh.
Yeah. They were thrown in jail for the crime, but were broken out by the gang. Ringo and Gladden were arrested on November 7th, 1876. Gladden had received 99 years, but it's not known how many years Ringo actually received. Now, Ringo went to Cochise County in Arizona with one of his friends named Joseph Graves Oley. See?
We've made it to Arizona, people.
Didn't get nothing off that. She's like, when is Arizona? And I say it.
No,
Just,
I was waiting for you to pronounce that name.
What?
I was going to let you finish your sentence, and then I was going to say, and now we're in Arizona.
Sure.
I was trying to be nice. I know, you're not used to it, but I did have a mouth. That's probably why you didn't notice.
Yeah. I was waiting for something, but...
It was coming. I was just waiting for you to finish that sentence.
Oh, okay.
Now where are you going to pick up? You stopped in the middle of a sentence. Now where are you going to pick up?
Okay.
See why I was going to wait till you were done with the sentence?
No. Okay, so we're going to start with the sentence all over again.
We're going to travel to Arizona for this sentence.
Yes.
Woohoo, we're finally in Arizona. That is the state for this case, just so y'all know. It ain't Texas.
No, it's not Texas. Or Indiana or anything. Okay. Ringo went to Cochise County in Arizona with one of his friends named Joseph Graves Olney, or Joe Hill, in 1879. On December 14th, 1879, Ringo was first seen in Arizona when he tried to murder Lewis Hancock. Now, the reason he tried to murder the man was because Ringo had offered him a shot of whiskey, but Hancock declined the offer, saying that he only drank beer. Now, with Ringo being really drunk, this made him pretty mad, so he shot him. But he did survive.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah, back in the day, I guess you just
That
said
is ridiculous.
Upset people.
You'd think he'd be happy he didn't want to drink his whiskey, because then that's more whiskey for him.
Yeah, and the whiskey was probably more expensive, too, so...
I don't know.
I'm just assuming whiskey would probably be more expensive than beer, but...
I don't know. Probably. I guess it would depend on what kind of whiskey you got. You'd have to think that they had different levels of whiskey back then like they do now.
Oh,
You know,
sure.
like top shelf, middle shelf, rock gut. Is that what that's called?
Yeah, the very bottom.
Yeah.
Now, on January 17th, 1882, in Tombstone, Ringo got into an argument with someone that a lot of you may recognize. He goes by the name of Doc Holliday.
Doc Holliday.
Yeah.
Aww.
And it looked like they were going to have a gunfight, but before the fight could happen, they were arrested for carrying guns in town and were both given a fine. Now, the judge noticed some outstanding charges against Ringo for a robbery in Galesville, and Ringo was arrested again and sent to jail on January 20th and spent the weekend there. Now, during his time in Tombstone, Virgil Earp was ambushed and ended up being disabled for life on December 28, 1881. And Morgan Earp was murdered while he was playing pool in a saloon on March 18th, 1882. Now, because Ringo was there during all of this, the Earps thought that he had something to do with it. Now, Wyatt Earp and his crew murdered Frank Stillwell because he was believed to be one of the men responsible for Morgan's death. After that, they went searching for the rest of the men they held responsible as well. The county sheriff, Johnny Bayham, was given warrants for the rest of Earp and for Holiday. The sheriff then deputized 20 men, one being Ringo, others being friends of Stillwell and the Cochise County Cowboys.
He deputized a man. He just shot a man for turning down whiskey.
Yeah.
You know, it's ironic because I almost made my Arizona case on one of the Earp brothers.
Really? That would have been cool.
I did. In fact, Chris had asked me to make my Arizona case on one of the Earp brothers. I want to say it was Morgan.
Morgan?
I think was the one I was gonna do a case on for Arizona, and I didn't. And I'm kind of glad that I didn't now because then it would have maybe overlapped yours somehow. I might have ran into Ringo in my case.
Maybe. I don't know, but I mean, it's still, I mean, that's the only mention, this is the only part that really mentions a lot of Morgan. No, it doesn't really go into a lot of detail, so it would have been kind of cool.
I have it written down in my research book, the name of the one, because I made a list of the ones I was looking at. There's definitely an Earp brother on one of them. Cool. I'm pretty sure it was Morgan.
Okay. Now, during the search, Wyatt killed one of Ringo's best friends, Curly Bill, in a gunfight. He did this because Curly Bill confessed to being the lookout during the murder of Morgan. And Wyatt said that Ringo, Stillwell, Swilling, and Curly Bill were all responsible for Morgan's death.
They were in the Tombstone movie, weren't they? Curly
Yes.
Bill and all them? Mm-hmm. I thought so.
Now, 2 days after the 4th of July celebrations, Ringo left town taking a lot of alcohol with him. Deputy Billy, hopefully I say this correctly, Breckenridge, seen him near Dials Ranch 2 days later. He said that he tried to get Ringo to come back with him because he was really drunk, but Ringo didn't want to, and he went on his way. At 3 p.m. on July 13th, some cattlemen were working, and they heard a gunshot. On July 14th, James Yost was carrying wood when he came across Ringo's body. He was sitting on a large flat rock in the middle of some blackjack trees, and his body had been turned black because of how hot it was out. Now, the coroner's report said that there was a bullet hole in the right side of his head and that there was an exit wound on the back of his head. The shot was at a 45-degree angle between his right eye and ear. They also said that he still had the gun in his hand. Now, the report also said that there was a cut at the base of his scalp, like someone had tried to remove it, but it was ultimately ruled a at the age of 32.
I don't know about that.
Now, Ringo's body was buried where he was found on East Turkey Creek Road in Pierce, Arizona, and is on private property. There's a gate for people to be able to see his grave, and at the site there is a historical plaque, a rock pile, and a small white headstone, and it is located in front of a pond. The picture's kind of crazy. Now, there are theories out there to this day that say Ringo didn't do it. One theory is that Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday went back to Arizona and seen Ringo at Turkey Creek. Ringo tried to run, but Wyatt shot him. Another theory is that Ringo challenged Wyatt to a gunfight, and Holliday took his place instead and killed Ringo during the gunfight. Another theory is that Michael O'Rourke had murdered Ringo because he owed Wyatt money, and that Ringo had led a mob that was going after him. They say that he went back to Arizona, found Ringo, and murdered him. Now, some people don't really believe this one or the Holiday one is correct because they don't really think that the men would have gone back to Arizona because they had murder charges against them there. So it'd be kind of like
risky.
Yeah.
But then again, Doc Holliday was known for being risky.
That's true. That's very true.
And, you know, the Earp brothers were also very well known for being very close and very protective of each other. You know, and I think if he had if Doc Holliday had the guard of Wyatt Earp, he may have very well been able to sneak in and out of Arizona without
Yeah, he may have been. Maybe. I don't know.
I don't
Now,
know.
there's also a man who claimed while he was in jail that he was the one who murdered Ringo. But people think that it's more likely a confession to get thanked from. Now, some people do think that Ringo was the one that done it to himself. But the strange thing is that while I was looking at the research, like all the things I looked at, no one really talked about the cut to his scalp and how it may have happened. Because, I mean, if they think that he done it to himself, why would there be a cut at the base of his scalp?
Well, it may, and I don't know that this is true, but back then their bullets were made out of completely different powders than they are now. So it may be possible that if he got shot in the right side of his head or whatever, there may have been like the bullet may have kind of exploded and it may have severed, like the bullet shrapnel may have
Yeah.
severed a piece of his scalp.
You see, I wonder, though, also,
I
what
don't
I was
know that
going
that's true. I don't know anything about guns, but I do know that they did use different powder mixes back then. So, and I know bullets nowadays with what they use now can blow up like that
yeah,
when being fired if there's too much pressure in the gun or whatever,
yeah.
and they can shatter.
See, what I'm thinking, too, is like whatever I was looking at, whenever they're saying the base of the scalp, are they talking about here? Or are
I
they
don't
talking,
know.
like here? Or like,
I don't know. I know me personally, as soon as as you were reading it, before you started going into theories, the very first thing that I envisioned being a possibility was maybe him sitting at the creek drinking, and then he was approached by somebody from the front, and maybe challenged by somebody from the front, and then somebody came out from the side and shot him,
possibly,
and then
yeah.
he fell on the rock with the gun still in his hand because he thought he was getting ready. Because back then, when they did like a duel or whatever, they were facing each other. It
Yeah,
would have been nearly impossible for people facing each other for one of them to shoot him in the side of his head.
right.
That would have been nearly impossible for that to happen. So my guess is that somebody had challenged him or approached him from the front, and he drew his weapon to protect himself, or maybe with the intent to do a duel of some kind, and then somebody came out from the side and shot him
Yeah.
while he wasn't aware of what was going on beside him because he was focused on what was happening in front of him. And he may have been drinking as well. I mean, clearly he liked to drink. He was drunk in most of the scenarios that you read.
Yeah,
So, he may have been too intoxicated to pay any attention to somebody coming up on his side.
yeah. Which, I mean, I didn't put this in here either, but some people do say that he did threaten to do it a few times.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was because he was just, if he actually meant it, or if he was trying to get sympathy, or
I don't know if
I
back
don't.
then the coroners or the examiners or whatever, I don't know if back then they were able to determine based on the pressure of the entry wound
Mhm.
like they can now. They can tell how far of a distance the bullet was shot at
Yeah.
now.
Hmm.
I don't know if they could tell that then.
Yeah, I don't know. I
Because if
mean,
he did it to himself, then it would have been either really next to his head or against his head. But if somebody else did it, it may have been a more distant shot than his arm could have reached in a bent position.
right, right. And then also, like, if he also would have done it, which, like I said, this was in there too, or in some of our research, but I didn't put it in there because some say there, I mean, with the way that his body was found, I mean, even if there was, you wouldn't be able to really see it. But,
Yeah.
like, the powder burns,
Right.
But
Yeah.
like I said, because of the state of his body.
Well, and that goes back to what I was saying about the bullets too, with the shrapnel and everything, which could have very much contributed to the cutting of his scalp.
Yeah. It's possible for that too, and some people were like, well, I wonder if it had to do with like an animal, maybe like an animal got to him or something.
Oh yeah, possibly.
And it's like, well, I don't know. I mean,
I
I mean, nobody really knows to this day what really happened. I mean, like I said, it is said that that's what happened, that he did do it to himself, but it's kind of just shrouded in mystery, really. So,
Well,
I don't know, but that is the story of the life and death of Johnny Ringo.
you can't really end this one by saying, "Well, that's terrible," because he didn't live a very moral life.
No, he wasn't really the greatest guy.
Yeah, he was not a good man. Like he was not, and I'm not saying that people who aren't good men should be shot. I'm just saying it's harder to feel sympathy for somebody who did live the kind of life that he lived. I mean, he took multiple lives himself. So what makes his life any more valuable than the lives of any of the people he took. Going back to the guy he shot because he said he preferred beer.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know anything about that guy's life. I mean, granted, I know the guy lived, but he might not have.
Yeah.
He could have died.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was probably the intent.
Was to kill him.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So it's hard to feel sympathy for that kind of a situation for somebody who lived that kind of life.
Yeah.
You know? When they've already taken multiple lives themselves, I just find it hard to feel bad for them when something happens to them.
Yeah. It's understandable. I'm just kind of curious, like if somebody actually did it to him. I mean, he had a lot of enemies from what I read. A lot.
I could see
and you know, Wyatt and Doc. Come on.
I mean, you didn't mess with the Earps. You did not mess with the Earps because you were either going to get it from one of the Earps or you were going to get it from Doc Holliday, one of the two.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You know, but I mean.
But you know, then you got to look at the fact of did this happen? Like, what year did Doc Holliday develop tuberculosis and become bedridden or whatever? Like, was this in that same time frame? Would he even have been physically able to travel to Arizona to do something like that? We're definitely going to hear all the clickings.
Sorry.
That's her computer.
He was diagnosed with tuberculosis in 1873.
And what year did they find him? Did they find Ringo?
They found Ringo. What year was that?
Doesn't seem as though you put it. 1882 right there, so it had to be after 82. Right? And what year did you just say Doc Holliday developed tuberculosis?
Let's see. He developed it in 1873.
73. So this was like 10 years later.
Okay, so it was 1882 was Johnny Ringo.
Okay. What year did Doc Holliday die? Because I know he had tuberculosis for...
Oh, when did he die?
Yeah, I know he had tuberculosis for quite a few years before he actually died from it. Sorry, we're investigating. 1887. Yeah, 1887.
So I don't think he actually died from it, though. Because he got it in, like, 73.
I thought he did die from tuberculosis. What does it say his cause of death is?
Man, he's only 36. Wow.
He's young. We're just going to keep investigating this case. You guys, I hope you don't mind. Stay with us.
Okay, so...
Tuberculosis. I knew he died
so
of
he had it for that. I didn't think that
a
lot of people had it for that year.
I knew it.
That long.
I mean, not that I'm glad that he died. I'm just saying that I was accurate about how he died. I knew I had looked that up before. But, I mean, he might have been physically able to still do it. So what year? 1987?
When he contracted it was 1987, but John Ringo was 1882.
Anyway, doesn't matter. Point is, he had tuberculosis when that happened, so who knows if he was even able physically, like health-wise, to make a trip back to Arizona to have participated in doing it. Yeah. You know, but there was several Earp brothers, so, you know, Wyatt may have recruited one of the other brothers to go down there and help him get, you know, his revenge for Morgan.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true.
Because I know they sure went above and beyond to try to take out everybody that they thought was involved in that.
Yeah. They definitely did.
So. But yeah, that was an interesting case. Thank you for sharing.
Well, thank you.
See, you got the whole story. If I would have done my case on the Earp brothers like I was gonna.
Yeah, see?
I didn't. That's okay. I'm happy with the case that I did. I think it needed to be heard. So.
Well, I'm excited to hit it.
Well, you should have already heard it by the time this case comes out.
Yeah, but I'm saying as of right now.
Okay. But this will come out Friday. So right now for them will be when they're hearing it on Friday.
Oh, they're talking about your case.
My case comes out Tuesday.
I know.
So by the time you say Friday, I look forward to hearing it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Right on this day that we are recording this, which is on a Saturday before the Tuesday, I'm excited to hear it.
You already heard it. We already recorded it. Oh yeah. We recorded it
wasn't feeling good yesterday. Oh wow. Okay. Sorry, that made this video like really long. Sorry about that.
It's okay. So just so you guys know, we usually pre-record these so we have plenty of time to edit them. Not that it looks like we do much editing, but I swear we do. And we alternate on when we upload between Tuesdays and Fridays. So.
Yeah, that made me look really bad. Like, I can't wait to hear it. You heard it yesterday, you fool. Oh my god.
Remember that time you were like, it looks like you're falling asleep when I'm recording. Are you even listening?
Oh.
We're even.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was what it's like to hang out with us for 10 minutes.
Yay.
We hope you... Actually, That's what it was like to hang out with us for 32 minutes and 53 seconds, 54 seconds, 55... Anyway. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for hanging out with us. And,
sorry for the long little Google search that we decided to do in the middle of our podcast.
I needed more information about what was going on. I needed to know if it was possible that Doc Holliday had anything to do with Johnny Ringo's death.
Well, it's possible. Anything's possible.
I'm just saying I needed a little more research. This was my first time to hear your case. So I needed to know more. Anyway, thank you guys so much. We hope you like our content. If you do, please give us a subscribe and a like and maybe a share if you're feeling really generous. Other than that, this is
Render the Darkness.